Kat Von D has found a dramatic way to start fresh. The tattoo artist revealed she is covering many of her extensive tattoos with a massive blackout, inking much of her body in a process that she said has taken more than a dozen sessions over 40 hours, and she's not finished yet. Kat documented her progress in an Instagram video posted on October 19th and shared an up-close look at the widespread ink across her torso, which she explained is only about 80% complete. The former LA Ink star addressed questions and concerns in a lengthy caption, explaining that she wasn't a good candidate for laser removal of this magnitude and sharing what inspired her to take on such a major ordeal in the first place, writing in part, "I had many tattoos that represented a part of my life that no longer aligns with who I am today. Some people are fine with keeping these types of landmarks and time on them. I personally grew tired of waking up to them and seeing those constant reminders every time I looked in a mirror." Kat added that she knows the look is not for everyone, but that she personally loves the aesthetic and finds it to be a satisfying clean slate. The 41-year-old's transformation comes just more than a year after she announced that she was distancing herself from supernatural practices. And in early October, she shared an intimate peek inside a spiritual milestone, posting an Instagram video of herself being baptized during a church service in front of family and friends. Kat followed up with a candid selfie clip thanking those who reached out with loving support for her decision and sharing how grateful she is for the positivity despite the many others weighing in with criticism.
It's been pretty awesome. I'm actually shocked because I was expecting to get so much hate for it. I know that a majority of my fans and my followers are not Christian, and so I know that it's a turnoff to a lot of people, and everybody's had their own experiences in their life that might trigger certain things, and and I know that everybody's on their own journey, and it's not for everybody, but this is where I'm at, and to me, my baptism was a public demonstration of where I stand with my faith, and basically letting people know that I'm not ashamed.
Hey YouTube world, harvest is plenty, hope all is well. Today we're going to discuss Kat Von D. She's the famous tattoo artist from Miami Ink, LA Ink. She's also a musician. She decided to move away from New Age, from yoga, from transcendental meditation, and from witchcraft, and give her life to Jesus Christ. I have a little bit of the testimony for you guys where she discussed those things. In addition, she decided to clean house. She's thrown away, or has thrown away, all of her books on witchcraft and the dark arts, books that she had, first edition copies of Aleister Crowley books and things like that. She got rid of them. In addition, she's also received some criticism from people on both sides for leaving the dark side to come to Jesus Christ. She's been criticized by Christians, and she's been criticized by people who are still in that lifestyle of New Age, witchcraft, tarot card readings, psychic readings, and all of that stuff. Oftentimes, people end up in that journey because they're looking for answers. They feel that the church doesn't offer answers. They feel that the Bible doesn't offer answers. Most people I found have never even read the Bible, or they read it but without any understanding of what they were even reading. And so they move on, and they move on to something else that will allow them to advance their career, their life, to give them money, power, fame, and whatever else. And Satan and his demons, they're always standing ready to grant you guys your wishes, but it always comes with a price. And so think about that if you're deciding or considering going on that journey, or if you're already down that path. Just know it won't end well unless Jesus Christ saves you and pulls you out from that dark side. In this article, there's a picture of her library that she posted, and a picture of some of the books that she's thrown away. She's going to talk a little bit about that in the interview. So let's get to it. Also, I do not have all of the interview, but I have pretty much the meatiest parts of it because I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. So let's take a listen. Make sure you comment, subscribe, or whatever the case may be. Thank you. Take care. God bless to you and your family.
Before we even get into how you became a Christian, I kind of want to go all the way back.
Sure.
So who is Kat Von D? How were you raised?
Well, I was born in Mexico in 1982, and my parents they're missionary Christians. They're both from Argentina, from South America. And so at the time of the birth of me and my siblings, my dad was on a mission in a very tiny pueblito in the middle of nowhere in Mexico called Montemorelos. It's in the state of Nuevo León, which is about 7 hours south of Texas. And he was building clinics in places that just didn't have them. And my dad's a pretty inspiring guy. And so we were born in a literal third world country environment and had no idea. And it was one of the most abundant times in our lives. You know, like I remember like the floors in our house were just packed dirt. We had no running water, no electricity. And I remember spending my first memory of my first Christmas was on those dirt floors, opening up like a little homemade present that my parents got us. And it was just an amazing time for me. When I think about those years, it's like they're some of the best years of my childhood, and hopefully I can kind of somehow give something like that to my son in this crazy wonky world we live in now. But so we were brought up obviously with God in our household. You know, my parents were quite strict with that. And, you know, we moved to America by the time I was 6 years old in Southern California. And, you know, I talked to my pastor about it now because I ended up straying. You know, I ended up like being a pretty wild teenager and leaving home at the age of 14, running away and putting my parents through a literal hell that I've made amends for now. But I had a lot of questions as a kid, and I don't think my parents were equipped with the answers. And so that's like one of the things that as a parent now, that I really want to be able to do with my son when he asks questions. And I don't want to just be like, oh, well, we just believe, you know, or it's just like, that's what faith is. You just got to believe. And it's like, yeah, but I have legit questions, like whether it's, you know, elementary school level of dinosaur questions to like what the resurrection was. And they didn't really have that. So I did go to Bible studies as like a child. Like I remember until my early teens, I had read the Bible twice, but I read it not really like understanding, or I just read words, you know, front to back. And so, sorry if I jump around, you can always stop me.
Okay.
But I ended up, going astray in a way. Like I think I discovered punk rock music at a very early age, and I don't want to blame that for my decision to like walk away from God, but because in reality, I think that's what actually brought me back to God. But was just this free thinking mentality, is like to question everything, especially authority.
You, like you said, you jumped to bigger and bigger ponds, got closer to LA as a tattoo artist. At this point, you're like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old were you when LA Inc. started?
So I first got on a show called Miami Inc. And I was barely 21 or so. And I was, at this point, a full-blown alcoholic. I was drinking all the time. I got introduced to drugs at that point, but I was functioning. So like somehow I miraculously like showed up to work every day, and I did a great job, you know. And then, but behind that was just this growing addiction. And I did Miami Inc. for as long as I could, as long as I contractually had to, because it was a very miserable experience. And I had signed the contract while I was drunk without a lawyer or anything like that, and I had no idea that I had signed away the rights to my name and my likeness and my art and everything I created. And so to nullify that contract, I was offered to do LA Inc. And so I didn't want to. I just wanted to get away from whatever that whole process was. I wasn't the type of person that was like, I want to be on TV and I want to be famous. I just like loved tattooing, and I wanted to be a good representation of the industry that I was in. And, but the people that, I was casted with, we just didn't get along. And so I was like kind of forced to be with people that didn't respect me or whatever. Yeah. So I signed the contract for LA Inc. and opened up my shop in LA, and I had that shop for about 12 years. So, but we filmed the show for another 39 episodes or something like that.
Yeah. And you said at this time, mid-20s, you kind of got into the new age. You were still an alcoholic at this point, right?
Yeah. And I wasn't like full blown into it, but I was like, you know, I think I was a seeker. So, but nothing, I wasn't really actively pursuing any belief system.
Yeah.
I just was sad. You know, I was drinking and I was trying to find answers in the wrong places. And it wasn't until I got sober, which is, it'll be 17 years ago in July, that I, you know, really opened up my eyes to wanting to fix myself. And that's when I started getting into a lot of the new age stuff, like a lot of self-help books, you know, that was kind of like the gateway into it.
Like law of attraction type stuff, or not really?
No, I was like into, and I mean, I don't want to obviously like diss any like authors or anything, but just like into meditation, a lot of meditation and
spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it wasn't like I was like, I'm gonna go sell my soul or anything like that. I honestly like Satan is not on the radar for me. So yeah, when I got sober, I didn't go to AA. I read the Big Book, which I loved, and I still love that book. I feel like I do have notes, but like, you know, I think in general, like doing a 12-step for everybody would benefit from, you know, doing your inventory and making amends and doing all that stuff. That was very helpful for me. You know, they really talk about having a higher power, and that's the part where I'm like, oh, I feel like you're missing the God part, because like, you know, they won't like have like they don't ever talk about your higher power can be this cactus in the corner, you know. It can be Ozzy Osbourne or something, you know. It's not, whereas like for me, I feel like I've been sober for a long time, but I don't feel like I was free from all it until I found God, you know. And I feel like that would be so cool if, I mean, whatever, I'm not gonna really diss on the AA program because it helps a lot of people, but so yeah, I think that's when I just started looking into that type of literature, and then I started learning about transcendental meditation, and I was like, oh, like it was always these very like short-lived band-aids on a sinking ship, you know. That's kind of how I see it. It's like oh, this feels really good, and I'm like so at peace, and I've like been able to like you know, I'd have anxiety at the airport, and I'd go into the bathroom and like say my mantra, and then and I'll be fine. It's like, but it was these crutches, you know. Right. So now I'm gonna fast forward to like the first post that I ever made about talking about like throwing away my occult books. Yeah. And I think that everybody kind of honed in, my fans included, on the witchcraft books, because there was a lot more of those than there was the others. But I actually threw away all my meditation books, all my books on yoga, all my like, it wasn't just the stuff that people considered spooky, which, you know, I don't think some of it is, but and I think that it's easier to look at like a story, like what I wrote, and mind you, I prayed a lot about that post prior to doing it. Like I spent time on writing that caption because I knew the intentions behind it were to like start being able to talk about where I'm at in life, you know.
And that was what, 2020?
Yeah.
Or so?
I think so, yeah. And it was such an, so I posted this post on Instagram where I just took a picture of a good chunk of these books that I took from my library. I have a library of like 300 to 500 books. And so this was a very small, like a small amount of books out of that collection that I just wanted to get rid of. Like I don't want to say that they were haunting me, but it's like, I already knew they were there. I have my son who's growing up and is becoming curious. And it's like, you know, there were some art books I threw away too that weren't in that picture that were like, I don't know if I want my kid to look at that, you know, like, but to me, it was like, I came to this really awesome realization that night that I decided to post that, was that like, I don't want these crutches in my life anymore, you know? And that's what I really saw them as, is like, okay, like, I just want Jesus. And it's a very narrow road, right? Like, I feel like all these other, like these breathing techniques or these, or like spell work or whatever, like, nature worship, all these things, it's like, they're just crutches. They're not really like my answer. And so for me, I would rather eliminate any distractions. And this is just for what works for me, you know? So that was like was a symbolic gesture, I guess, in a way, but it was my first like proclaiming of where I stand with certain things. And it was crazy to watch the reaction, because in the comments it was like I feel like you could see literal demons hissing at each other. And it was coming from both sides, you know, from people that were like, oh, I don't think Aleister Crowley's evil, or hey, like, why would you throw this away? You should give them to people, like that's so wasteful, or whatever. Or there's nothing wrong with what I see in these pictures. And then there would be the Christians that were like attacking and kind of saying equally as evil things too, you know, that weren't helping anybody. And that night, I feel like 2 people came to my house. So at the time we lived in LA and we had a gated house, and I was upstairs with my son, and the doorbell rang, and we had like a security system, and my husband looks, and it was, he screenshotted it, and it was just this possessed person, you know, who just was like, hi, you know, I don't want to freak you out, but I just want to know if I could please have those books, you know, like I really need those books. I need those books. And it was just like, and you could see the darkness in this eye, and like, like why I think, like when I say things, I definitely think that people over
spiritualize.
No,
like...
I just think a lot of people, especially in the Christian community, like call everything demonic, and I don't think everything is demonic. Like, but in this case, I was like, I think this is a definition of a demon. Like, this person is possessed and is no longer in control of what they would normally do, because they're obsessed either with fame or with the desire to bring certain evils into your life. You know, I think that's crazy. You know, my husband ushered him away. Then the second person came and they tried to break into our trash cans.
Wow.
Which I had already thrown.
To get the books.
Yeah. Which were all readily available online anyway. I mean, I did have like first editions of stuff, but it's like, what is it in you that's like so desperate for, you know, like, again, trying to find these answers in the wrong places, a literal trash can. You know, and it kind of was like a very like sobering moment for me, because I was like, man, like this, I don't want to have anything to do with this, you know, anymore.
When you posted that, you said that you saw those as crutches and all you wanted was Jesus. So at that point you were a Christian.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So when did that happen?
Probably like a year before that.
A year before that. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did you become a Christian out of the world of just kind of spiritualism?
So funny enough, I kind of blame my husband, or give him the credit. It was during like right before, right when the lockdowns happened. I came downstairs and he just said, hey babe, I think we got it wrong. You know, I think we got a lot of things wrong. Wow. And I was like, no, you know, and I was never like a politically charged person. I would say like ignorant political things, just out of like, you know, because I don't watch TV. I don't like really know. I mean, I would see like whatever my friends would post or things like that, but I was never like, I couldn't tell you who's in office or anything like that, you know, at the time. And then, so my husband was like, hey, like, I want to show you some stuff, you know, and like it would be some articles and some videos and stuff. And I was like, oh man, like I really got to start rethinking a lot of things that I thought were true, you know? Yeah. And that was kind of the first step into questioning everything I had been doing.
Yeah. Was it mostly, we don't have to get into the details on this, but like the stuff that he was showing you, because you said it was around the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Was it mostly regarding that kind of thing, or was it more theological in nature, the things that he was talking about?
No, it was like revolving more around like political things. And you know, you have to understand at that time, like BLM was going hard and in LA, and I was in the middle of it. Like I lived 3 doors down from the mayor of LA. So we had Antifa like on our front yard, you know, after they threatened to like do the Molotov cocktails and stuff like that. And like, you know, so we were just like seeing things in real time, and they were much worse in real life than I think what people even put on TV. And so I was like, man, maybe like, you know, so I started just kind of like reevaluating, kind of going down the list of what I'm doing with my life and like what my perspectives are. And then it got to the part of like my spirituality. And that's where I started really rethinking a lot of things. And so I think a friend had sent me a sermon from Pastor Jack Hibbs, and I loved it. Like it really spoke to me, and like it answered a lot of questions that I had. And so then I started that my son at the time was like still a baby, so I wasn't going to church, but we would watch like sermons every Sunday. And so that was kind of like, I just desired more and more and more. And so I just started studying the Bible. And it was like, I think it was, it's so cool to be able to do it as an adult. You know, I think like I was very lucky that I had parents that were Christian and enforced certain things at a time when I couldn't understand things, even though it wasn't as effective. Like I do credit my dad for everything, because I remember finding myself in very dark moments, and like intuitively I was praying.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't because my dad made me. Like it was because because he'd been waiting. That's all, you know? And so like when you can fall in love and learn as an adult, it's so much more meaningful and real than it is when you're a child just doing it because this is what we do, you know, and this is how we do it, you know? So I mean, I'm on fire for Jesus. Like I don't plan on this dimming out. Like the more and more I learn, the more and more excited I get about things, and the more at ease I am about what's happening in this world and what's happening, in my marriage or in, you know, in all of it. So, I do want to go back though to like the occult stuff, because, I don't even want to say occult stuff, but like, you know, just like the tarot cards and all that stuff. Like, you know, not to diss any of my friends, because I have a lot of friends that are into that stuff and I love them so much, you know. I have actually more empathy and understanding than I think an average person, because I've been there. But I will say that my husband and I, we look at the Rolodex of friends that we have, and the ones that are dictating their life through that, and they're making life decisions through tarot or through, you know, some of the witchcraft stuff, like even the meditation stuff, or like, you know, and I'm going to definitely offend a lot of people, but like the ayahuasca trips or the meditation camps and silent retreats, all the things that I used to do, except I never did ayahuasca, but like, they're all so miserable. Yeah. And like, they're the most broke people. Usually most of them are single. They don't have stability. And I'm talking about like both financial and like the love around them. Right. There's always this drama and dread and doom and gloom. And I was one of them, you know? And it's like, that's one thing that I would look around at my Christian friends and I'm like, they're not perfect by any means. Yeah. But I want what you have, you know? Like, I love the light that you have. And it's like, so, you know, we're like, let's not be dummies anymore. And let's just like figure out what this obviously hasn't worked for us, you know, let's like explore this. And so that's kind of like my whole perspective on it. You know, I think, again, like I have no intentions of cutting off my friends that I don't necessarily agree with, or, you know, don't see things the same way. I don't think Jesus would either. And so it's like, cause I got a lot of criticism after I posted that baptism video. And, I think that like Christians, you know, when you do that, you don't realize how much harm you're doing, you know. Like I would look at a lot of the comments that I got, and they were really cruel and very, very, annoyingly holier than thou. And I would look at some of them and say, okay, let's look at like, what is to be gained from this comment? Like, who does it help? Like, to be a know-it-all? Like, who does it help? Does it help me? Does it help all my other followers following and like witnessing the judgment and the criticism and definitely of not knowing the other person, you know? Like everyone's like, oh, well, she's a baby Christian, so, you know, you should cut her some slack. It's like, I'm not a baby Christian. I mean, I just recently got baptized, but like, I'm not like, this didn't happen yesterday. Like, I have an understanding of a lot of the things that people are talking about. Like, I'm not going to dress like how you think I'm going to dress. Like, nothing's changing in that department. Like, even like with like the you know, the music that I make or some of the content that I make, it's like, it's not for you, you know, it's not for you. You have no idea how many DMs that I got from like other goth kids that are in the same boat as I was. They're going, man, I'm at this crossroad and I want to go back to church, but like, I don't have a church to go to, or I feel like even within my own family unit, people have like, I'm an outcast, and like, and I'm trying to make my way back to Jesus, but like these people, you know, like thank you for doing that, you know? And it's like, so I don't have any intention on like conforming to what somebody's like uniform or what their idea of darkness is, you know, because I don't think I'm a dark person. I wear dark clothes, but like people's like definition of darkness is a lot different, you know? Like what's dark to you might not be to me. Like I'm not scared of death. Like I talk about it all the time. My entire career was based on that. You know, I tattooed portraits of dead people on their loved ones for decades. And like, so I've read every grieving book. I've read every bereavement book. I've read like, you know, I think death is something that like we should be able to talk about. And, you know, when I see a skull, I don't think like, oh, that's demonic. it's just not for me. But if it triggers you spiritually, then keep scrolling, you know, like, or don't listen to my music or whatever it is. But I think that like the amount of like critical Christians on my Instagram now have become such a turnoff to people who are actually seeking God that like I had to just block and delete. Like even if it's good stuff, I just like, if people talk about, this is not for you, you know? And it's like you end up pushing people away. And like the one person that I think about through all this is my husband, you know, because when we got together, we were both not Christian, you know, we got married, and then he's really helped me without knowing find my way. And he's not necessarily on the same page. I mean, in some ways he is, you know, he's very supportive. We go to church together, you know, every Sunday. He always supports me. We pray together. But there's parts of him that's still questioning. And like after that, getting so much grief from people that spilled over into my husband, he was like, I remember the next morning, he was like, babe, I don't want to be a part of that. Yeah. You know, and it like, I'm trying not to get emotional because it's like, I've been working for years, like trying to like lead by example and share what I, you know, my own stepping stones with him to like, hopefully one day he can come to me and say, hey, guess what? Like I've given my heart to Jesus. That hasn't happened yet. But when you have like an entire community of people like attacking you, like, man, like you're, you know, not to say that my husband is like, you know, going to do something based on a comment on Instagram, but when it's getting amplified so much, like it turns people off, you know, and not everyone's like that, you know, like our church is amazing. Like the first day we went, you know, my husband didn't want to go. He's like, oh, do I have to go? And I'm like, yeah, you have to go. Like, that's going to be a rule now, you know? And, you know, when we moved to Indiana, I was like, our first mission is to find our church, you know, and like it might take us a year, it might take us a week, but we got to just try. And I had a list of Baptist churches that I wanted to explore, and the first one.
Why Baptist? Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just curious about that.
Well, I mean, I'm not too much into denominations either, but I feel like when I look at the breakdown of like their approach to scripture is just like aligns with what, you know, like what I feel. So, I
mean, I'm for it, obviously. Okay, cool. I'm supportive as a lifelong Baptist myself, but I just was curious about that. Okay. So
and I wasn't born into a Baptist church. So it's like, you know, I think like, to me, it's cool to be able to, like I said, as an adult, have an understanding. And I looked at things like there's things about, you know, I'm seeking more traditionalism. Like I don't, like when it comes to my worship, and this is just for me, it's like, I want to worship. Like, I don't want to go to a concert. I don't want to, I don't like I dress, we all dress nice when we go to church. That's just our own personal thing. Like this is a sacred space. And like, like that's how I do it. And I feel like, other outlets and stuff like just didn't really align with what I'm looking for, you know? Yeah. But so I feel like God just like spit me out on the doorsteps of the most perfect church for us. And we go in there and there's, you know, it's a very small congregation. It's a lot of old people. And, my parents were always late as a kid. So I have anxiety about being late. I do not like being late. And so I was like, all right, well, I got there too early and we interrupted their prayer circle, and these people just stood up and embraced us, and they were just, they didn't really care about who people think we are, you know. They were just like, oh yeah, you're the lady that bought the house down the street, and we've actually been praying for you. And like and so then I was like, okay, well, let's try this out, because it's like, you know, I want to see if what the pastor's all about, pretty much. Like I want to learn about the Bible. Like I don't want like necessarily feel good stories, or, you know, like I'm here to learn. And then, you know, Pastor Brian is like, that's what he's all about. So I was like, man, I can't believe that, you know, we got lucky and found this place so quickly, and we love it. And so my husband responds to that, and like, you know, we he's learning in his own, you know, on his own path and in his own way, and our, you know, so that's been good. But then I feel like when we step out of that place, like that's when it becomes like triggering for him, you know. And
well, you're in a unique position because you have such a large audience that you are going to attract the, you know, extremes of anything just by being a person on the internet. I do want to talk about the baptism video a little bit, just for some people who may have missed that. And we talked about it a little bit in the introduction, but you posted this beautifully artistic baptism video. Is that your actual church? Is that the building? It's beautiful.
Thank you. It is beautiful.
And like you said, you received a lot of
positivity.
You know, a lot of positivity, but then you said that you received some criticism, and you talked a little bit about the holier than thou kind of self-righteous comments that you got. But specifically, what were they criticizing you for? Or was it like, this is not genuine?
So there's a lot of it. There was, I mean, like it went from, well, her hand wasn't like completely submerged into water, so this is fake, or it doesn't count. That kind of
silly.
stuff.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I've never
like you
heard
have to
that
you have to be fully submerged. But like, you know, I was holding on to Pastor Brian's hands when, you know, and I weigh 150 pounds. Like he's like an older gentleman. Like I was like thankful he didn't drop me or whatever, you know. So, and then other people were like, she's faking it. This is just for a PR stunt, and like, you know, I didn't, you weren't there, you know. It's like people weren't there. And like there was one recently that I saw that was, and I like I said, I typically do not respond, I just block and delete, but one of them I responded to recently because it was just so crappy. Just the like, who would say this? But right before I went into the water, so I joined the church choir, and I wanted to sing my tribute, this song called My Tribute, and on that day. And so I sang that with my choir. And my dad plays the trumpet, and he ended up doing a trumpet version of My Tribute when I was in the back getting ready to go in the water. So I was already crying before we even went in. And and so the whole entire time, you know, I'm listening to Pastor Brian when he's saying, and the whole world was disappeared, and I'm in this water with my pastor, and then he calls me a sister in Christ, and I just, the whole time I was just fighting tears, you know. And so in the video I'm doing this, like, you know, and somebody's like, look, she's just laughing the whole time, like it's fake. And I was like, man, you know, you're no fun. Like I just, like, people like, what do you guys, because I don't have that within me when I'm on Instagram. Like I see plenty of stuff that I don't like, or that I don't agree with, or that I think is silly, or
and you just scroll on.
I just don't care, you know. But to somebody to like rain on somebody's, like, I mean, like, it's so,
just looking for something,
it's so crazy. So, but you know, I'm not an idiot. I knew that when I posted that video that people would have questions, and I also knew like the moments leading up to it. It wasn't like it wasn't planned, you know. I strategically, like, you know, I hired a camera guy. You know, I wanted to me this, I've been documenting my life since I was 20, and this was one of the most important days of my life. Like I want to document it just like I would document my wedding, you know, and to share it with the world. It was intentional, you know. It's like I mean, there's
there's the symbolic gesture of baptism, but there's also a part for me is like a bit of a making amends with my followers, because for so many years I've been putting out a certain message that that makes me sad that I was ever even a part of, you know? And so to like publicly proclaim this was me setting some things right, you know, and this just is for me, you know, it has nothing to do with, you know, my church isn't involved in that thought process, you know, but it was important to me to share that, you know, because I could have just kept it to myself and just kept going on. But I was like, no, this is something I want to celebrate, and I want to be like open and honest about it. And I don't plan on being evangelical in a sense of like posting about my faith or, you know, like, to be honest, outside of talking to you, I really don't plan too much to talk about it. And that's just my own, like, where I'm at with it. You know, I feel like there are some people that have the gift of that, you know, like my pastor, or like you, and like Pastor Jack Hibbs or whatever. And I think that there's some people that like can be quiet witnesses, and that's me, you know, like I do better like one-on-one with people. And I feel like now that I've like come out and shared where I stand with my faith, like if somebody DMs me, or if someone on the street comes up to me or talks to me, or one of my friends, which this has already happened, says, hey, like I want to know more about this, like totally cool. But I'm not going to be like, you know, pounding on everybody's like front door. That's just not, I'm Amish about it.
Yeah. So to end, what message would you give someone who is watching this, who maybe they're in the position to where they're like, yeah, you know, I want to believe that God is real, but there are things holding me back, whether it's their past, or whether it's who they are now, or whether it's that they don't like what they see from Christians. It's just not attractive to them. Like, what would you tell that person?
Oh man, I'm not good at these kinds of giving messages out or advice.
What would you have told yourself?
I mean, you know, I think what's exciting to me is to look, like, I loved researching like the historical aspect of the Bible, because then you just start seeing actual truths. And I think a lot of people, when they think of like, oh, it's like, you know, some guy with a beard in the clouds, and like miracles didn't really happen, like this kind of, but when you start looking at like, there's so much evidence that is so undeniable. I mean, it's so cool. That's the part where I was like, okay, this isn't just about blind faith. Oh, I just believe because this is like what I was talking about with my childhood. It's like, I just believe because that's what my parents told me to do. It's like, no, there's actual like evidence and information that's like so exciting and inspiring. So, you know, like I said, when you gifted me the idea of getting that Bible, like it really helped me out, because I have like a little women's Bible study class that I go to on Tuesdays at my church and stuff. But we are a little bit of like, not the blind leading the blind, but we're all figuring it out together, you know? And so it's like, you know, I don't know what the advice is. You know, I got really lucky with a pastor that has like a doctorate in theology, and like is very knowledgeable, and I can ask certain questions and we can talk about it. And he has like, you know, opened my mind to certain things. And I don't know how to tell people how to find that, you know? I mean, you're probably better at it than me. I just know that it's within me, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think you answered the question just by giving your testimony of talking about how God draws people and kind of what you did to seek that out and the questions that you asked. I think it's just good for people to hear too, that it's okay to have questions. Yeah. And that you don't have to have it all figured out. And actually, we are all figuring it out, whether you've been a Christian for 5 minutes or 50 years. There are going to be questions that are unanswered. But there are also, like, I see a lot of people saying, well, I can't be a Christian because this question, or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people have some arrogance in believing that no one else has ever asked the questions or had the doubts that you do, when really, thankfully, like, we have thousands of years of very smart, very knowledgeable, very wise theologians who have wrestled with a lot of those questions. So, like, chances are there are a lot of answers to the questions that we have, not perfect in all of them, but like you said, like, you asked people, you sought people who knew what they were talking about. You read the Bible, you got to study Bible. I think that is a good answer.
Yeah.
Like, seek the questions that you have. Don't just sit with them. Like, seek the truth about them, because chances are there's a lot of wisdom out there for you.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Kat, thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking
thank
the
you.
time.